Imagine walking into a gallery and stopping in front of a breathtaking painting. At first glance, it looks like a masterpiece built from months of human labor. The brushwork feels intentional. The colors feel emotional. The composition seems almost impossibly precise. Then you read the note beside it. The artwork was created through a collaboration between a human artist and an AI model trained on millions of visual patterns, historical styles, textures, and forms. That moment is both exciting and unsettling, because the question is no longer, can AI make art? It clearly can. The real question is this: what happens to human creativity when machines become creative partners? Over the next 5 years, that question is going to matter more than ever. AI is not just another software tool. It is beginning to influence how people imagine, experiment, compose, revise, and share creative work. For some, that opens a new frontier of possibility. For others, it raises serious concerns about originality, authorship, value, and even identity. In this video, we will explore how AI could transform human creativity in the near future through 3 major scenarios: visual arts, music composition, and storytelling. We will look at the opportunities, the risks, and the deeper shift happening beneath the surface. Because this is not simply about technology making things faster, it is about redefining what it means to create. For most of human history, creativity has been tied to skill, time, and access. To paint, you needed materials and training. To compose music, you needed instruments and knowledge. To tell stories in a polished way, you needed writing ability, editing ability, and often some pathway to distribution. AI begins to change that equation. It lowers barriers. It speeds up iteration. It makes experimentation easier. It allows someone with a vague idea to turn that idea into something visible, audible, or readable in minutes. That does not mean talent disappears. It means the creative process itself changes. Instead of starting from a blank page, creators increasingly start from a conversation with a machine. They prompt, refine, reject, remix, guide, and curate. In many cases, their role shifts from soul maker to director, editor, and systems thinker. Some people see that as a loss. Others see it as an expansion. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Let us start with visual art, because this is where many people first felt the shock. In the next 5 years, AI will likely become a standard part of the visual artist's toolkit. Not necessarily a replacement for artists, but an integrated layer in concept development, style exploration, production, and post-processing. Imagine an illustrator working on a graphic novel. Instead of spending days testing costume variations, mood boards, lighting styles, and environmental concepts by hand, they can generate dozens or hundreds of options in an afternoon. That does not finish the work for them, but it allows them to explore a larger creative space much faster. A fashion designer could use AI to test silhouettes inspired by architecture, nature, and historical garments. A game studio could generate early world concepts for forests, cities, and creatures before human artists select and refine the strongest directions. An architect might use AI to explore aesthetic possibilities before applying engineering constraints. Even traditional painters could use AI as a sketching companion, generating reference compositions to reinterpret in their own medium. This is where AI can be genuinely empowering. It can help people visualize ideas that were previously trapped in their heads. It can make creative exploration cheaper and faster. It can give independent creators access to capabilities that were once reserved for large studios with big teams and big budgets. It may also create entirely new art forms. We could see more interactive visual experiences where artwork adapts in real time to the viewer. Personalized art could become more common, where pieces are generated or adjusted based on mood, memory, or context. We may even see artists known not for one static style, but for designing living creative systems that produce evolving bodies of work. But the challenges are serious. One of the biggest is the question of authorship. If an AI model has been trained on countless existing artworks, where do inspiration and appropriation begin and end? If a creator generates an image in the style of a living artist, is that homage, theft, or something in between? Another issue is oversaturation. When it becomes easy to generate thousands of polished images, the creative economy may be flooded with content. That could make it harder for audiences to distinguish depth from novelty, and harder for human artists to earn attention and income. There is also the risk of sameness. AI often produces outputs based on patterns it has already seen. If too many creators rely too heavily on similar tools, visual culture could become more optimized but less surprising, more polished but less personal. So the future of visual art with AI may not be about who can generate the most images. It may be about who can bring the clearest taste, strongest point of view, and deepest human intention to the process. Now let us move into music. Music has always combined mathematics and emotion, structure and instinct. That makes it a fascinating space for AI. In the next 5 years, AI could become deeply embedded in how music is composed, arranged, produced, and personalized. Picture a songwriter who has a melody in mind but struggles with orchestration. AI could suggest harmonic layers, alternate chord progressions, rhythm variations, and production textures within seconds. A film composer could input the emotional arc of a scene and receive multiple draft scores to build from. An independent musician could use AI tools to simulate instruments they do not own, generate backing tracks, or rapidly test genre blends that would otherwise take weeks to produce. This could be a major creative unlock. Musicians may spend less time on repetitive technical tasks and more time shaping emotion, identity, and narrative. AI could also help beginners enter the world of music creation without years of formal training. Someone with a strong ear but limited technical knowledge could still build compelling work. There is also enormous potential for personalized music experiences. In the near future, AI may generate soundscapes tailored to your mood, location, activity, or physiology. Music for studying, grieving, exercising, sleeping, or healing could become more dynamic and responsive. Artists may create not just songs, but musical frameworks that adapt in real time to the listener. That said, music is not just arrangement and sound design. It is also expression, struggle, memory, and cultural context. One challenge is emotional authenticity. If an AI can generate a beautiful melody, does that melody mean the same thing as one written from lived experience? Audiences may enjoy AI-assisted music, but they may still crave the story behind the song, the human voice behind the choices, and the emotional truth behind the performance. Another challenge is economic. If brands, platforms, and creators can generate cheap custom music instantly, what happens to working composers, session musicians, and producers? The same tools that democratize creation could also devalue certain kinds of labor. And then there is the issue of originality again. If AI systems are trained on large catalogs of music, how do we protect artistic identity? How do we distinguish inspiration from replication? How do legal systems adapt when creative influence becomes computationally amplified? Over the next 5 years, the musicians who thrive may not be those who avoid AI completely. They may be the ones who use it strategically without letting it flatten their voice. Because in music, technique matters, but voice matters more. Now to perhaps the most profound shift of all, storytelling. Stories shape how we understand ourselves. They carry memory, morality, humor, culture, and meaning. That is why AI in storytelling feels especially powerful and especially sensitive. In the next 5 years, AI could transform storytelling at every level. Writers may use it to brainstorm plots, develop characters, test alternate endings, and refine dialogue. Filmmakers could use it to pre-visualize scenes, generate concept trailers, or explore multiple script directions quickly. Game developers could create more adaptive narratives in which characters respond dynamically to player choices with far greater nuance than traditional branching systems allow. This opens remarkable possibilities. For one, it can help writers overcome friction. Many great ideas die in the gap between imagination and execution. AI can help bridge that gap by making first drafts less intimidating. It can become a kind of sparring partner, offering momentum when the page feels empty. It can also enable new forms of interactive storytelling. Imagine stories that evolve based on the reader's preferences, values, or decisions. Imagine educational narratives personalized to a student's interests. Imagine fictional worlds that continue expanding with audience participation, guided by creators who design the universe rather than every single line within it. This could make storytelling more immersive and more participatory than ever before. But again, the concerns are real. Storytelling is not just about producing coherent sentences. It is about lived insight. It is about subtext, ambiguity, contradiction, and the strange specificity of being human. AI can imitate many patterns of storytelling, but imitation is not identical to understanding. There is a danger that convenience leads to shallow narratives. If creators begin outsourcing too much of the difficult work, the resulting stories may be structurally competent, but emotionally thin. They may sound right without having much to say. There is also a cultural risk. AI systems often reflect dominant patterns in the data they were trained on. That can reinforce stereotypes, flatten local nuance, and privilege familiar structures over unusual voices. If not used carefully, AI could amplify mainstream storytelling conventions at the expense of more diverse, experimental, or culturally rooted narratives. And there is a philosophical question here too. If a novel, screenplay, or game narrative is heavily generated by AI, who is the author? The person who wrote the prompt? The person who curated the output? The people whose work trained the model? Or does authorship itself become more distributed and harder to define? The answer may vary case by case, but the debate is not going away. So where does all of this leave us? It leaves us in a world where creativity may become more abundant, more accessible, and more collaborative. But it also leaves us with a responsibility to decide what we value. If AI can generate images, music, and stories with increasing quality, then human creativity may become less about raw production and more about intention, judgment, and meaning. In other words, the scarce resource may no longer be output, it may be taste. Taste in what to make, taste in what to keep, taste in what to reject, taste in what matters. And beyond taste, there is something even deeper: human experience. AI can remix patterns at astonishing speed, but it does not fall in love, it does not grieve a parent, it does not grow up between cultures, it does not sit in silence after failure and decide to try again. Human creativity is shaped not just by information, but by embodiment, memory, conflict, and desire. That is why the future is unlikely to be humans versus AI. It is more likely to be humans with AI. And the real difference will come from how consciously that partnership is designed. Creators who use AI carelessly may produce more content, but not necessarily more meaning. Creators who use AI thoughtfully may discover entirely new ways to express what it means to be alive. So, in the next 5 years, AI could transform creativity in at least 3 major ways. In visual arts, it could expand imagination, accelerate experimentation, and create new aesthetic forms, while also challenging originality and artistic ownership. In music, it could democratize composition and personalize listening, while raising hard questions about authenticity, labor, and value. In storytelling, it could unlock interactive narratives and reduce creative friction, while testing the limits of authorship, depth, and cultural integrity. This is not a future we simply wait for, it is one we shape. The tools are getting more powerful, the boundaries are getting blurrier, and the role of the human creator is not disappearing, it is evolving. So maybe the most interesting question is not, will AI replace human creativity? Maybe the better question is, what kind of creativity becomes possible when humans and AI build together? What happens when artists use AI to explore ideas they could never fully visualize before? What happens when musicians use it to hear possibilities they might never have composed alone? What happens when writers use it to open doors, but still choose which story is worth telling? The next chapter of creativity may not belong entirely to humans or entirely to machines. It may belong to collaboration, and that collaboration will be messy, controversial, inspiring, and deeply transformative. So as this future unfolds, do not just ask what AI can create. Ask what you want to create with it. Because the most important creative tool of the next 5 years may not be artificial intelligence alone. It may be human imagination, amplified,